Once upon a time, in a small village nestled at the foot of a mountain, there lived a boy with his parents in a humble house with a thatched roof. Though the boy's family was poor, their life was warm and kind-hearted. Because both his parents had to work in the fields all day, the boy, from the age of 10, was given the responsibility of looking after the family's flock of sheep. That flock, about 20 white, healthy, and gentle sheep, was their most valuable possession. Every early morning, before the sunlight reached the tops of the bamboo trees, the boy would lead the sheep out of their pen and along a narrow dirt path up the hillside behind the village. There, lush green meadows stretched wide, filled with the sweet scent of wildflowers and the gentle sound of a stream trickling over mossy stones. The boy's job was to keep watch over the flock, making sure none got lost, wandered into the forest, or, most importantly, got eaten by wolves. Everyone in the village knew that wild wolves still roamed the forest on the other side of the hill. At first, the boy found the work rather interesting. Being surrounded by nature, listening to birds chirping, and watching the sheep happily graze brought peace to his 10-year-old heart. But after a few weeks, the repetitive routine made him feel bored. He was alone all day with no one to talk to, no friends to play with. He often sat on a large rock in the middle of the field, legs swinging, eyes gazing far off toward the village with a deep sense of loneliness. One scorching midday, after finishing the dry bread his mother had packed for lunch, the boy lay under the shade of a tree, sighing in boredom. Every day is just sheep, sheep, and more sheep. There's nothing fun at all. I wish something would happen to make it more exciting. Suddenly, a mischievous idea popped into his mind. He remembered stories the villagers often told, stories about how they rushed to help one another whenever wolves appeared. He thought, if I pretend there's a wolf, everyone will come running up to help. I could have a good laugh. At least I'd have someone to talk to for a while. Without hesitation, the boy jumped up, ran to the top of a small hill, and shouted at the top of his lungs, "Wolf! Wolf! A wolf! Help me! The wolf is coming to eat the sheep." His voice echoed across the hillside, all the way down to the village. The villagers, who liked the boy because he was hardworking, dropped everything. Some grabbed hoes, others sticks, and some even brought their dogs, and rushed up the hill to save the boy and his flock. Panting and sweating, they reached the field. But instead of finding a wolf, they saw the boy, laughing uncontrollably. "Ha ha ha! You should have seen your faces. There's no wolf. I was just kidding." The villagers were stunned. Some shook their heads, others were angry, and a few looked disappointed. "That kind of joke isn't funny," one said. "What if it were real next time? Who would believe you then?" Another added. But the boy just laughed, not realizing the seriousness of his prank. After the villagers left, he lay back under the tree, still chuckling to himself. A few days later, boredom struck again. He recalled how thrilling it was when the whole village had come running. He thought, that was so much fun. If I do it again, they'll come again, and I'll have another good laugh. What's the harm? So he cried out once more, "Wolf! Wolf! Help me!" This time, the villagers were hesitant, but still decided to come, just in case it was real. But when they arrived, they saw the same scene, the boy sitting among his calm sheep, laughing his heart out. Just kidding again. Someone even brought a knife this time. The villagers were furious. An old man with a silver beard stepped forward, his voice stern. "Listen, boy. If you cry wolf one more time, no one will believe you, even if you're really in danger." The boy lowered his head and pretended to feel sorry, but inside, he thought it was just another empty warning. He still didn't understand the consequences of dishonesty. Then one day, the weather suddenly turned cold. Dark clouds rolled in, and the wind howled across the hilltop. The boy wrapped himself in his cloak, huddling under a large rock. The sheep gathered close together, bleating in the chill. Just then, from the depths of the forest, came a low growl. Two glowing eyes appeared under the thick canopy. A large wolf with shaggy gray fur crept closer and closer to the flock, eyes fixed on its prey. The boy panicked. He screamed, "Wolf! A real wolf! Help me! Please, someone help!" He shouted with all his might, waving frantically toward the village. But no one came. The villagers heard the cry, but they only shook their heads. Again. This time we won't be fooled. No one ran up the hill. No one brought sticks or tools. No one believed the cry for help. Alone on the hill, the boy watched helplessly as the wolf lunged into the flock. The sheep's terrified cries rose above the howling wind. The boy tried to chase the wolf away. He threw stones, yelled, did everything he could, but it was useless. The wolf seized a sheep and vanished into the forest, leaving behind a trail of blood on the grass. As dusk fell and the sky darkened, the boy led his now smaller flock back to the village. His eyes were downcast, his face pale. The villagers watched in silence. One person asked gently, "Was it real this time?" The boy choked up and nodded, his eyes red with tears. The village elder came over and placed a hand on the boy's shoulder. "You see, child, when trust is broken, even the truth has no power." That night, the boy sat alone in front of the sheep pen, staring at the empty space where one sheep used to be. He couldn't forget the look of fear in his flock's eyes, or the helplessness he had felt. He had learned a painful lesson, a lesson about honesty and trust.
Once upon a time, in a peaceful little village on the edge of a deep green forest, there lived a sweet and well-behaved little girl who was loved by everyone. She always wore a bright red hooded cape that her beloved grandmother had sewn for her. Because of this, everyone called her Little Red Riding Hood. One fresh morning, as sunlight filtered through the treetops, her mother called her over and gently said, "Dear Red Riding Hood, your grandmother is ill and lives alone in a little cottage in the woods. I've prepared some bread, honey, and milk. Please take this basket to her. But remember what I say. Do not leave the path and never talk to strangers." The little girl nodded obediently. "Yes, mother. I promise to go straight to Grandma's and not stop along the way." Her mother kissed her forehead and walked her to the gate. Little Red Riding Hood set off with her basket swinging by her side, her heart full of excitement to do something important all on her own. She walked along the narrow forest path, where golden sunlight streamed through the leaves, butterflies danced in the air, and birds chirped merrily. From time to time, she paused to admire wildflowers by the roadside or to listen to the rustling of the trees. But she didn't know that hidden behind thick bushes, a pair of eyes was watching her closely. It was a large gray wolf with shaggy fur and sly, gleaming eyes. The wolf stepped out from behind a tree and pretended to be polite. "Hello, little girl. Where are you off to in such a hurry?" Though surprised, Red Riding Hood answered politely, "I'm going to visit my grandmother. She's sick, and I'm bringing her some bread and honey." The wolf feigned interest. "What a kind girl you are. Where does your grandmother live?" "At the end of this path," she replied, "in a little house under 3 big oak trees. The door is green, and there's a white fence." The wolf nodded and narrowed his eyes, thinking, "What a delicious treat awaits me. If I get there first, I can eat the grandmother, then wait for the girl and eat her too." With a cunning smile, the wolf said, My, look at those beautiful flowers. Why don't you pick some to cheer your grandmother up? I'm sure she'd love that." Red Riding Hood looked around and saw a field of flowers glowing under the sun. She clapped her hands joyfully. "Oh, you're right. Grandma will love them." And so, she stepped off the path to gather the flowers, completely forgetting her mother's warning. Meanwhile, the wolf chuckled to himself and dashed down a shortcut toward Grandma's house. In no time, the wolf arrived at the cozy little cottage on the edge of the forest. He knocked gently on the door. "Who is it?" came a weak voice from inside. The wolf cleared his throat and replied sweetly, "It's me, Grandma, Little Red Riding Hood. I've brought you some gifts. Come in, dear." "The door's unlocked," the grandmother answered. The wolf pushed the door open and, upon seeing the grandmother lying in bed, sprang at her and swallowed her whole in one gulp. Then he put on her nightgown, wore her sleeping cap and glasses, and slipped into bed, pulling the blanket up to his chin. Meanwhile, Red Riding Hood had gathered a big bouquet of fresh flowers. She continued down the path until she reached the cottage. The door was slightly open, and a breeze made the curtains flutter. Something felt off. "Grandma," she called. "Come in, dear," came a raspy voice from inside. She stepped in and saw Grandma, lying in bed, completely covered with a blanket. Red Riding Hood walked closer, tilting her head in confusion. "Grandma, what big ears you have." "All the better to hear you with, my dear," the wolf replied softly. "And what big eyes you have." "All the better to see you with, my dear." "And what big hands you have." "All the better to hug you with, my dear." "But, what a huge mouth you have." "All the better to eat you with." With a roar, the wolf threw off the blanket and leapt at Red Riding Hood. She screamed and ran toward the door. But just then, a hunter who was passing through the forest heard the cry for help. He rushed into the cottage and saw the wolf chasing the terrified girl. Without hesitation, the hunter raised his gun and shouted. The wolf froze in fear, slipped and fainted. Then, with Red Riding Hood's help, the hunter cut open the wolf's belly. And to their amazement, out came Grandma, alive but dizzy and frightened. "Oh, thank you. Thank you both," she gasped. Red Riding Hood burst into tears and hugged her grandmother tightly. "I'm so sorry, Grandma. I didn't listen to Mother's warning." The hunter then filled the wolf's belly with stones and stitched it up. When the wolf woke up and tried to flee, the heavy stones made him stumble and fall into a deep ravine. He was never seen in the forest again. The three of them sat together in the warm little house, enjoying bread, honey, and warm milk. Birds chirped outside the window, and sunlight streamed through the trees, as if celebrating a happy ending. From that day on, Little Red Riding Hood never strayed from the path again, and never spoke to strangers.
Once upon a time, deep in a lush green forest, there was a small, peaceful dry well. Inside that well lived a little frog who had been there since it was born. Though the well wasn't large, it was a safe and familiar world for the frog. The water was crystal clear. The bottom was decorated with pretty round pebbles. Small fish swam playfully, and insects flew by, making for a peaceful life. To the frog, the well was the entire world. Its home, its comfort, and a place without fear. Every day, the little frog would hop onto a rock and look up at the small patch of sky visible through the narrow mouth of the well. In its eyes, the sky was only that big, and the well was a whole world. Having never known anything else, the frog gradually came to believe that no one was stronger, smarter, or more talented than itself. It could swim well, jump high, and its croak echoed throughout the well. When small creatures like ants or crickets accidentally fell into a well, the frog would mock them. Living in such a limited space without ever questioning it, the frog became arrogant, convinced it was the wisest in its tiny world. One day, as the frog hopped onto its usual rock, a white stork happened to fly by and stopped at the edge of the well. Tilting its head to peer down, the stork saw the smug little frog and asked, "What are you doing down there?" The frog proudly raised its head and replied, "I am the ruler of this well. I can jump high, swim fast, and no one is stronger or smarter than me." The stork laughed and said, "Do you know that out there are vast rivers and immense oceans, so wide that even my wings cannot carry me across them?" The frog was stunned but refused to believe the stork's words. It thought the stork was just jealous of its position as the lord of the well. Hearing about the wide world beyond, the frog completely dismissed it. It believed the stork was making things up to confuse it and was envious of its status. To the frog, nothing could be better than the familiar little well. The stork simply smiled, said nothing more, and gently flew away, leaving the frog with its narrow beliefs. One day, the sky darkened. Thick black clouds gathered. Thunder rumbled and rain poured down. Water quickly rose inside the well. For the first time, the frog felt truly worried as the water kept climbing higher. In no time, it overflowed the mouth of the well and swept the frog away in the current. It tried to swim against the flow, but the water was too strong. Torn from the only world it had ever known, the frog panicked and struggled helplessly in the rushing stream, unaware that a whole new journey was just beginning. When the storm passed and the water receded, the frog woke up on a vast, damp meadow. As it opened its eyes, it was stunned by the sights it had never imagined. Endless fields stretching to the horizon, a winding river sparkling in the sunlight, and a sky so immense it seemed to have no bounds. Birds soared freely overhead, and enormous fish leapt powerfully from the river. The frog was speechless. Never before had it imagined the world to be so vast and wondrous. At that moment, it finally realized that the well it once thought was a universe was merely a tiny corner of the wide, wide world. After witnessing the vastness of the outside world, the frog came to see how long it had lived in arrogance and delusion. It had mocked other creatures and thought itself the best, but the truth was, its knowledge had been confined to a small well. Ashamed and regretful, the frog changed. It became more humble, eager to listen and learn new things. With an open heart and a thirst for knowledge, the frog began its journey to explore the world beyond.
Once upon a time, in a lush green valley filled with trees and blooming flowers, there lived 3 big billy goats. The 3 brothers lived together on the side of a small hill, where a crystal-clear stream babbled day and night. The sound of flowing water blended with the gentle whisper of the wind, creating a soft melody of nature. Every day, the 3 goats wandered around the hill in search of grass to eat. However, the grass in their area was growing scarcer and less fresh. From afar, on the other side of the stream, they spotted a vast green meadow, lush and fragrant with the sweetest scent. It was a paradise for grass-loving goats like them. But to get there, they had to cross a small wooden bridge over the stream. Yet there was a big obstacle. Rumor had it that a fierce wolf guarded that bridge day and night. With eyes as sharp as blades and razor-sharp teeth, the wolf would attack anyone daring to come near. Its growls echoed through the valley, frightening all the animals. Horrifying tales of the wolf devouring brave souls turned the bridge into a symbol of fear. Everyone knew that to reach the dream meadow, they had to face the beast. But the temptation of the lush field was too great to resist, so the 3 goats made a decision. They knew this journey wasn't just a quest for grass. It was a test of courage and wisdom. On a beautiful morning, the 3 goats looked toward the green meadow across the stream and decided, today was the day they would cross the bridge and reach that grassy paradise. Being the youngest, the smallest goat volunteered to go first. He cautiously stepped onto the old wooden bridge. The click-clack of his tiny hooves echoed through the silent air. Suddenly, a deep growl came from beneath the bridge. From the shadows, a pair of glowing red eyes appeared, and the wolf emerged. It bared its teeth and roared. "Who's that stepping onto my bridge?" The first little goat trembled, but tried to stay calm. "It's just me. I only want to cross to eat the fresh grass." The wolf licked its lips and sneered. "No, you're not going anywhere. I'm going to eat you." But the clever little goat quickly came up with a plan. "Oh please, Mr. Wolf, don't eat me. My brother is much bigger and definitely tastier than me. If you wait just a bit longer, you'll have a better feast." The wolf's greedy eyes lit up. It nodded slowly and let the little goat pass, already dreaming of a fatter meal. After seeing his little brother cross safely, the second goat knew it was his turn. He was larger, but still not strong enough to fight the wolf. Nervous yet determined, he stepped onto the bridge. His hooves echoed louder, clip, clop, clip, disturbing the calm of the morning. Instantly, a furious roar came from under the bridge. "Who's that clip-clopping on my bridge?" The wolf was back, more annoyed now after letting the smaller goat go. Seeing a bigger one, it grew hungrier than ever. The second goat calmly replied, "It's me. I'm going to eat the sweet grass across the stream." The wolf snarled, drooling, "No, you're not. I'll eat you right now." But the second goat was also prepared. "Oh dear Mr. Wolf, I know you're hungry. But if you're patient, my big brother is coming right after me. He's much bigger and fatter than I am. Eating me would be such a waste." The wolf paused. It was greedy and always wanted the biggest prize. After a moment of thought, its eyes gleamed with desire as it imagined a giant goat. It growled softly and stepped back, letting the second goat pass. He breathed a sigh of relief and quickly ran to his younger brother. Now two of them were safe. But the real challenge was yet to come. Would the third goat be able to defeat the wicked wolf? Now stood the largest and strongest of the three brothers at the edge of the bridge. He saw his siblings safe on the other side and knew it was his turn to face the final trial. But unlike his brothers, the third goat had no intention of negotiating or retreating. He believed in his strength, strong enough to face any threat, even the fierce wolf. His hooves thundered against the wooden planks like war drums. The bridge trembled beneath each step. From under the bridge, the wolf leapt out with rage and hunger in its eyes. Who dares to clip-clop on my bridge again? The third goat raised his head, stared directly at the beast, and said in a deep, steady voice, "It's me, and I'm crossing, not to fear you." The wolf scoffed. "No way. I let the other two go, but not you. You'll be my grand feast." But the third goat did not back down. He lowered his head, took a deep breath and shouted, "Then come and see who eats who." And bam! He charged like a storm. His sharp horns slammed into the wolf's belly, sending it flying into the air before plunging into the icy stream below. The wolf howled as the current swept it away, never to be seen again. From that day on, the bridge was no longer a place of danger. The once terrifying silence was now filled with the joyful laughter of the three goats as they crossed the bridge freely every day. Each morning, sunlight bathed the valley, glistening on the goats' sleek coats as they strolled toward the green meadow across the stream. There, grass grew fresh and soft, just as they had dreamed. They grazed, played under the blue sky, and enjoyed the peace without fear. The villagers, too, felt safe knowing the evil wolf was gone. The bridge, once a symbol of fear, became a symbol of bravery, cleverness, and brotherhood. Whenever someone asked about the bridge, the children of the valley would eagerly retell the tale of the three brave goats who overcame danger to find freedom and happiness. The story became a cherished memory, a reminder that no matter how big or small, with unity, wisdom, and courage, any obstacle can be overcome. And so, the three billy goats lived happily ever after, grazing, leaping, and laughing across the wide open meadow they had earned.
Once upon a time, in a peaceful little village, there lived a lonely boy who had lost both his parents. Though his life lacked love and warmth, beside his small house stood a large apple tree, its wide canopy casting shade over the yard. That apple tree was not just a shelter from the sun. It became his closest friend during a childhood filled with solitude. Every day, the boy would come to play, talk, and laugh with the tree. It became his little warm world, a haven from loneliness. His childhood was bound to that great tree. Each day, he would run outside, climb its sturdy branches, and pick the ripe apples to eat. When tired, he would lie beneath the shade, drifting to sleep to the sound of rustling leaves and the soft scent of the tree. The apple tree spread its branches like open arms, gently swaying as if to lull him. Between the boy and the tree, no words were needed. Their bond was deep and unspoken, as close as family. The tree eagerly awaited him every day, delighted whenever he came near, and quietly saddened when he did not. To the tree, the boy was not just a little friend. It loved him as its own child, protecting and waiting for him through the tender years of youth. Time passed, and the boy grew up. Life became busier and heavier with responsibilities, and he no longer came to play beside the tree. Still, the apple tree remained, waiting silently, longing for the little friend it once knew. One day, the boy returned, but he no longer wore the carefree smile of his youth. His face was weighed down with worry and thought. The tree rejoiced at his return, but the boy sighed deeply and said, "I need money to buy a house and start a new life." The tree fell silent, but still listened gently. Because of the tree, just having him return was enough to warm its aging heart. Hearing the boy's need, the apple tree paused for a moment, then softly said, "I don't have money, but you can pick all my apples and sell them. That should help you." The boy's eyes lit up. He quickly climbed the tree and picked all the ripe apples he once adored. With his baskets full, he turned and walked away, not once looking back. The tree stood there silently, watching his figure disappear into the distance, quietly happy. Though its heart felt empty and alone, the tree was content to have helped the boy on his journey. For the tree, love didn't require anything in return. Just a chance to give was enough. And so it remained, waiting, hoping that one day the boy would come back with the same heart as before. Many years later, the boy returned, now a grown man. His face bore lines of weariness, and his eyes were heavy with sorrow and longing. The tree joyfully swayed its branches. "My dear boy, you've come back. Are you well?" He nodded gently and said, "I have a house now, but I want to explore the world. I need a boat." The tree fell silent for a while, then softly replied, "I don't have a boat, but you may cut down my trunk and use the wood to build one." Without hesitation, the man took an axe and chopped down the tree, the very trunk that had sheltered him in childhood. When he had enough wood, he walked away quietly, never once looking back at the bare stump he left behind. Though it was now only a small part of his former self, the apple tree did not regret its sacrifice. For it, knowing the boy could continue his journey was the greatest joy. After the trunk was cut, the apple tree was left with nothing but a lonely, withered stump in the middle of the quiet garden. No longer did it have its wide canopy or tall branches to sway. Yet the tree held no anger or sorrow. Though its shape was lost, its heart was full, for it had helped the boy realize a dream. For the tree, giving was a kind of happiness. Silently, it remained where it was, waiting with quiet hope that one day the boy might return, even if only to rest upon its old stump. Many more years passed. The boy of long ago had become an old man, hair silver, back hunched, his steps slow and careful. He returned to the place of his childhood, where the old stump still stood, the only reminder of his once beloved friend. Though it was now just a weathered remnant of what once was, the tree rejoiced at his return. "My dear boy, you're back. Do you need anything?" The old man smiled gently, his voice trembling. "No, I just want a place to sit and rest." The tree replied with love, "That's perfect. My old stump is still strong enough for you to lean on." The man slowly sat down, resting his back against a familiar tree. A soft breeze blew, carrying with it the memories of youth. The apple tree felt peace, for at last the boy had returned, not to take, but simply to be there. And that, above all, was enough.